How you doing, YouTube? I'm up in my attic right now, and it's 100 degrees up here. You're sitting on my central air unit, and I came up here back in March and April to install some insulation above the attic and to do a couple lights on the front porch that I wanted to update. And I never really paid attention until that, but I noticed this house only has very small two vents that are very, very small. I want to say these things are maybe 4 inches in square here. So we're not talking a whole lot of ventilation. Not to mention that these vents could be opened up to about another inch all the way around. So nearly 2 inches of gain, actually. And with that, the problem I have right now is I keep my house at a 62, anywhere from 64 to 62. I get really hot when I sleep. And I've kind of learned it is better to maintain a temperature, a degree inside the house than it is to just let the AC not run all day and then when you get home to kick it on or whatnot. And not to mention, I never know when I'm gonna get home. Sometimes it's early in the afternoon before 5, and sometimes it's late in the evening all the way up until 9, sometimes 10. It just depends on how work goes and how busy we are in the time of year. So right now what I'm running is a little test with this guy up here, and hopefully that's gonna tell me what I need to do. What I'm thinking is this house just isn't breathing enough, and right now I can already feel cool air. But that tells me that this house is not cooling off enough, or at least inside the attic, it's not being maintained at a cool temperature. It's allowed to get really, really hot up here, which forces the AC unit, in my opinion, to work overtime because the rest of the heat's being crammed back down into the house. I'm really hoping this is going to change a few things, and I think it's going to work. And if it does work, then I'm going to spend, I think it's around $300 or so to buy a solar attic vent fan. I think, and I'm not 100% sure on how they work, just by understanding of reading, these pretty much kick on at a certain temperature and then they kick off. There's no electrical needed to be run, which works great for me because I don't want to have to run some extra wire to make this happen. As well as that'll tell me if I need to actually install another vent at a lower spot in the attic. These are pretty close to the peak of the attic, so with that, I think that they're in a sufficient spot, or sufficient enough anyway. However, and I'm getting a lot of blowback because this thing just, it can't push the air out. There's a very small opening. So I'm gonna let this thing run. I'm gonna time it once I close the attic door and climb out of here. I'm gonna let this run for about an hour, and then I'm gonna come back up and check the temp. If the temp changes even 10 degrees, then I think I'm on the green to go ahead and spend the $300. Now it's $300 that I don't really have. I can pull some out of savings, but that $300 eventually will pay me back. If it cools off 10 degrees in an hour, imagine what it could do if it had the chance to run whenever it needed at any time during the day. So if my air conditioner right now, it practically, once it kicks on at a certain time during around lunch or 10 o'clock, if it runs from 10 o'clock till 10 o'clock before it even shuts off one go, if even it shuts off twice in between that, even if it's for 5 minutes, I'd say eventually throughout all the days that it would do that, that's gonna pay me back well over $300 is what I'm looking at here. So not only would that save me on electrical, not having to run it, that would also save my electrical bill. And instead of $104 a month or so to run this AC unit, let's say I'm down to $85 a month, $80 a month. I mean, if it saves me that much, that is $20 in savings alone per month. You add that up over an amount of two years, give or take, and that $300 done paid for itself right off the bat. And I don't exactly recall the day that I actually said screw it and kicked the AC on, but I think it was around in March. I kind of bounced back and forth. Some of those days it got really warm, and other days it was fairly cool, so I basically just turned the unit off altogether. And once again, like I said, right now this thing runs practically all day. I'm really hoping that this is going to help out a lot. I've got a lot of high hopes for it. And with this setup is basically just a quick grab. At the shop, we tore out a office that actually had the guy that used to run the business used to smoke a lot, and everybody got tired of smelling the smoke, so he opted to put in a fan to eliminate the smell of ashtray hanging around the air. When we tore all this apart, the gentleman has now passed away, and when we tore all this apart, the fan was in there. They didn't want it in there. They weren't going to reinstall it. It's out. There's actually no smoking allowed in the shop. So with that, I was allowed to take this fan home. They were just going to throw it away, and I thought I could find a use for it somewhere. I mean, for the garage, maybe the house, or whatever. I could do something with it. And if not, it doesn't take much for me to throw it away. It was going to get thrown away anyway. So I went ahead and took it. I don't know how many CFM this thing flows. I just know that it'll run. And as far as I know, this thing used to be where it would run all day once it was kicked on. And we're talking on average, these were 16, 17-hour days. So I'd throw that into consideration. This thing looks like it's in really good shape, and it was fairly dirty. I cleaned it up, had a lot of dust on it. But all I've done is just take some plumber's tape, rivet it to the chassis of the fan, and then screw the plumber's tape to the ceiling. I'll give you a quick peek here. And like I said, this fan is not neat, it's not awesome, it is not fancy by any means. You can see the plumber's tape there and the screw that I've had to install it. You can see the rivets in it, and a very quick access to an outlet here. So once again, I really hope this is going to make a big difference, and if it doesn't, then I'm going to go ahead and uninstall it, and I'll figure something else out. And if it does work, then I may leave it up here, and I may end up leaving it run all day, see what happens. But until next time, till I can figure this out, stay tuned on my next video or whatever I may put up. It's going to be pretty interesting, actually. I bought something the other day that I haven't been able to buy in quite a while. So get ready for that one. Thanks for watching.